Strangers and Aliens, War of the Worlds 2025 review, movie in quotes review with special guest host Parker J. Cole. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Strangers and Aliens, which is a podcast and YouTube feed where we talk about that kind of intersection between fantasy and faith and science fiction and spirituality and creativity and Christianity. And I don't know if we're going to get into any of those spiritual themes because we're talking about War of the Worlds from 2025. And when I saw this movie, I thought I need to do something. We're going to record about this. And then I saw Parker on Facebook posted a little review, and I thought Parker's coming on the show. She's got to be the one.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to do this.
I turned on my TV. I brought up that screen, and it's the preview of a movie. It's just there it is. It says War of the Worlds, and it looks brand new. And I'm thinking, hey, a new War of the Worlds movie. That could be interesting. Could also be bad. I've seen some pretty bad War of the Worlds movies. Is this going to be on the good side or the bad side? And I want to watch that. And then I started seeing article titles pop up saying, is this the worst movie of the year? Is this the worst movie of the decade? Is this the worst movie of the 2000s, the whole century? And then I thought I definitely need to watch this. And then I did watch it. And that's when I was, Parker, you got to join me. You got to join me. So, how did you become aware of War of the Worlds 2025? How did you find it?
Well, not too dissimilar from your own experience because I was renewing my Prime membership because I wanted something sent to me free 2 day shipping. So that's why I was renewing my Prime membership with Amazon. And so I saw the poster show up on Prime and I was like, War of the Worlds. And then I looked again, I said, Ice Cube. So, and then I looked again, I said, War of the Worlds, Ice Cube. Still don't understand that. War of the Worlds, Ice Cube. It was like there was a disconnect for me. And I thought to myself, why Ice Cube? It was just very jarring for me. And I felt that weird unease hit me. And I said, War of the Worlds, Ice Cube. It's just that they're not supposed to be in the same sentence together. I mean, what are we going to do? And so I saw the trailer that pops up when you look at Prime Video, and I'm like, it's worse than you think. And I said, did they do this on purpose? Ice Cube and War of the Worlds. So that's how I found out. And then I started to watch it. So yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, yeah. When I started seeing the articles pop up, my son was also looking and seeing these articles. And he's like, Dad, have you heard about this? I'm like, yeah, I'm planning to watch it maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. And so we sat down, we watched it together. And here's the thing: War of the Worlds from the 1950s is a classic of science fiction, and it's a classic of science fiction for a reason. They're groundbreaking effects. It wasn't quite as groundbreaking as they were hoping it to be. I believe it was Ray Harryhausen who wanted to do a stop motion version of it that would actually have like walking tripods, but they ended up taking the legs away because it just would be too expensive. Now, if you do look, there are some beams of light that kind of take the form of the legs, on those. But they did a decent job. It's a good movie. It's classic. It's not as, it may not live up to modern audiences' expectations of what a exciting movie should be. And then you go back to Orson Welles and his radio drama, which is a just wonderful, wonderful piece of audio. And I do have one gripe with it that just always bugged me and always has bugged me since I started listening to audio drama and I was listening to that. But that's it's minor. It's minor. It's great. It's wonderful. The book itself is great. I love that book. It's a wonderful sci-fi book, and it is a foundational part of our pop culture as far as like alien invasions go. And everything looks back to War of the Worlds. And then you get this. And um, yeah, yeah. So I'm assuming you know War of the Worlds. You enjoy. I I don't like Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds. I don't know. What do you think about Tom Cruise's Spielberg War of the Worlds?
I actually like Tom Cruise's. I like Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds, and I like it because it was a unique interpretation of it. I like the interpersonal characterizations. One of the best scenes in there is when Tim Robbins, I think it's not Tim Robbins, that's Tim Curry.
Yeah, it's
Tim
Tim
Robbins
Robbins.
is Tim
Yeah,
Robbins, I think. He is hollering. Yeah, he's hollering and screaming, and they're trying to stay quiet because, oh my gosh, there's an alien nearby. And they're fighting in silence. And it's the tension. When I saw it in the theater, the tension filled the entire theater, right? And you're like, oh my goodness. And then he's hollering and screaming. And Tom Cruise is like, shut up. And Tom Cruise had to make a decision. That's one of the best moments in that movie, right? And he had to do what he had to do, right? And he tells his daughter, cover your ears and sing, sing to yourself, and took care of business. I remember being particularly moved by that scene. It wasn't something he wanted to do, it was something he had to do. So there's this character development in that scene where he has to be out of character for himself because it's either him and his daughter or you. And I'd be dang if it's going to be me. It really showed the human condition in a harsh light, because you could say, well, he could have left. There was nowhere to go. They were trapped. They were surrounded. And I like Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds. And I also like Orson Welles' radio drama. And I think I read the book. Maybe, maybe not. I won't say I have because I can't remember. If I can't remember, I may not have written it. If I
mm.
did read it, would have been years ago, right? So I won't say I read the book. If I have read, I can't remember it. But I did like those movies, and I did like those uh, interpretations of War of the Worlds. Again, we have to consider War of the Worlds, Ice Cube. So that was not on my bingo card this year.
There's two other actors I was surprised to see. Um, Partially because I started watching the movie and then like, oh my word, what is this movie
Mhm.
going to be? Clark Gregg shows up. Now, Clark Gregg, he's Agent Coulson. He is Agent Coulson, and I've never met him,
Yes.
never spoken to him, but he did do the intro for my Marvel podcast, and he's someone. I mean, he just brought a grounded humanity to Agents of Shield, and honestly to the early Marvel movies, uh, and he shows up in this, and I'm feeling embarrassed for him, secondhand embarrassment for him. I don't know how he feels about this movie, but and then Eva Longoria, like playing the action lead in some ways because she's the one who's out doing stuff. She's the one who actually gets action moments
Yes.
as the hero.
Yes.
and, and meanwhile, you want to know what you want to know what Ice Cube looks like in this movie? Well, you're looking at it. If you're watching this on YouTube, us looking at the screen, this is Ice Cube. This is here he is right here.
Mhm.
There he is. That's the movie right there. Okay. That is 80% of the movie right there
Yes.
in that picture.
The entire movie.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
people are going to think that is an exaggeration. And it's
it
not.
is. It is not.
It is
That
not an exaggeration whatsoever.
that picture I just put up, that is, you can't see it on the audio, but it's a picture of the musical version, the 70s rock opera version of War of the Worlds. Listen to it. It's on Spotify. Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. That's another good one. Much better than this one. Then because he's just staring at the screen the whole time. That's all he's doing. And there's a
Again,
little bit of this,
that's why.
a little bit of staring pensively,
Yeah.
reading
Or
the screen, a little bit of this, typing. There's some typing
mhm.
going on. Little moving the mouse around. Sometimes he picks up his phone. It's just good grief.
I love how Pitch Meeting did the recap of this because Ryan George, who is phenomenal, he he just really showed what everybody else was thinking, right? And he goes, "We need someone who can be emotive, really good with emotive, since it's gonna be on the screen." He goes, "Ice Cube." He goes, "He frowns really well." He said, "Got it," you know. So
Yeah.
this, oh gosh, it really is the type of
Ugh.
movie where you're either going to hate it or hate it more. That's the type of movie it is.
I so here's the thing. I sat down with this movie and I was ready to give it every single benefit of the doubt. I had I had 1,000 benefits of the doubt lined up because I'm thinking I'm going to watch this movie and maybe, just maybe, everyone else is wrong. Or maybe I'll be the voice crying out in the wilderness that says, this isn't too bad. Like everybody's just jumping on the bandwagon. And I really did go into it thinking there's a possibility that they're wrong. I'm going to watch this and I'm ready to just, I, here's the thing. We talked about the Star Lost on my podcast, Up from the Ashes. And some of the other co-hosts, I apologize to. The Star Lost is a Canadian TV show that is very much like imagine Doctor Who in the 70s and early 80s, but then take away the budget. and and now imagine that and also take away almost any emotion from any of the actors, you know. And it honestly, it's the kind of thing, and go back, you can go back and listen to Up from the Ashes on wherever you can get a podcast, and you can listen to our episodes there. You don't have to watch it, but it is worth watching, I believe, because you can see what they're reaching for. And even when they do it horribly, like the B episode toward the end, which is one of the worst episodes you can possibly watch of television in general, um, they're reaching for something and they're trying and they're creating and you and I, you got to talk about some pretty good episodes when you were on, comparatively speaking. I apologize to other people. I didn't apologize to you because I didn't feel like I needed to. You liked it. You enjoyed it. But this movie, I I was ready to give them benefit of the doubt for what they were reaching for. And man, talk about your reach, overextending your grasp or whatever the phrase is. It was bad. It was bad. And I'm not even going to do the spoiler organ. We're going to go ahead and spoil this movie. You might say, but Ben, it's already been spoiled because it's over 100-year-old book. No, no. Although in the book, in the original, in the 50s version of the movie, in Orson Welles' version, in Spielberg's version, it is a virus that brings down the aliens. And in this version of War of the Worlds, it is also a virus, but it is absolutely ridiculous. It is so dumb. It is. Uh, when we get to that climax.
Dumb doesn't even begin to describe this. And you, like we said earlier, War of the Worlds is the creme de la creme alien invasion story. Okay, so this is the origin of alien invasions. Just about, you know, there probably have been other ones, but this is the one that got traction. Okay, because we were terrified, and Orson Welles did his thing where people thought that people were getting attacked. You know, all of that, right? And so I am fine with updated adaptations of things. I don't mind seeing something new, but it has to make sense, right? You have to keep the flavor of what you're adapting. And people nowadays in modern critique, it's whether or not adaptations should remain faithful to the source material. And we would say, as close as possible, understanding that budgetary constraints and other factors involved may hinder a complete, true adherence to the source material. We would say that, right? However, this was like Someone was high when they created this movie. Someone had to be high when this happened.
So let's give some benefit of the doubt. Okay. On the front end of this, as they're developing this, um, COVID just happened. This movie has waited 5 years to be released. Like they were developing this around COVID. I believe they were filming it in 2021, where there was still COVID restrictions and things. You can totally tell that that's what they're doing because no one's in the same room with each other. They're all doing Zoom basically, and that really is what this movie is. It's we're gonna do an alien invasion over Zoom, and so that means when Eva Longoria goes out and she's doing her action things and being the action hero, she's the only one there. It's her and a camera person, and then you have um, Ice Cube's daughter, and she's the only one in the lab where she's a scientist, and her boyfriend, he's Amazon delivery guy. So here's the thing, though, on paper, to me, that kind of works when you think about, okay, we can make this where it's on Zoom, and we can't make movies all together in one big room right now because of all the restrictions and things like that. So let's get creative and figure out a way. And they almost had a good idea here. Because the other thing that I would say is I have seen now, I've seen period pieces for War of the Worlds where they've taken it and they've gone back to the early 1900s. Um, Obviously, though, you have the one that looms over everyone is Orson Welles with his radio drama that at first was done in such a way that people thought it could have been actual radio news reporting, and it was done very, very effectively. And also, people weren't really listening to him, to the Orson Welles Mercury Theater on the Air at that time, because there was a more popular show. It was Charlie McCarthy, and he's a ventriloquist who's doing his radio show. So I mean, go figure that one. But people would turn the channel at the advertisement, and there was a perfect moment there where they were catching, this just in, it's opening, and there's a strange thing coming out, and it's zapping, and it's people are gone. The humanity, and this is very early in the time of just that mass media. And so people didn't have the same kind of media literacy that we have now, kind of that we have now, where they're able to tell, like, is this real? Is this not real? And the panic was exaggerated. I firmly believe the panic was exaggerated. I don't think it went nearly as bad as they would have you believe in some of the pop culture things. But at the same time, it was very effective. And so you translate that to today and say, okay, well, what would that look like? Well, that would look like people doing Zoom and talking to each other and watching news reports on their screen. And that the whole movie is basically you you're looking at your screen, but your screen is somebody else's screen, and you're seeing the windows pop up and everything. On paper, to me, makes sense. In execution, no, it does not work. And it's really unfortunate. But
Here's the thing, Ben. Screen life genre, I think it's just as good as found footage genre. I think one of the movies that did a really effective job of screen life is Searching with I think John Cho. I think that's his name. Don't quote me. It's the Korean actor. But he did really good with that. It was screen life, but he can act. There is that too. So even though we're looking at his Mac the entire time. We are involved in his world. He can emote very well. We know that he is terrified. He can't find his daughter. We are all in. Ice Cube in every movie is Ice Cube. Okay. He will always be Ice Cube. This is not throwing shade on Ice Cube. I mean, he's sitting there and I'm sitting here. I'm not throwing shade. However, again, I kept coming to that weird moment in time where I said, War of the Worlds, Ice Cube. I mean, how are these connected? And going back to your point
And
about it being during COVID, I can understand that. But that made me want to say, just wait till we can all go back outside again, right? Because the idea of it sounded a whole lot better than, like you said, the execution. Okay. Especially when you consider that how can you have the tactile immersion of an alien invasion on Zoom? Okay. It's just not working for me. But the other thing about War of the Worlds 2 is that the 2025 is that they changed what they ate. And
oh man,
that to me it broke the world for me. You go first, Ben, about that.
it made no sense. It made no sense. They eat data. It, what this
It's like eating
organism
styrofoam.
came to Earth because they were catching our data. It what what does it even mean? How can they?
and
It
then
made no
and then
sense.
they're eating data, right? And you're, you're sitting there going, so Goliath, government agencies are taking all your data. Okay, when you type, when you go, all your data. They're just eating all your data, so you have no privacy. Okay, whatever. So these beings have been coming here for a while. Okay, because they show through footage, they have been coming here for a while, and millions of people you can eat. Okay, millions of people to eat, blood to suck, whatever. But we're gonna bypass all that and eat our data. And you're sitting there going, what does that mean to eat your data? What does that mean? How do they get full? You know what I mean? And so you're sitting there like, you have to be kidding me. And it's not that they just ate the data. They wanted to postulate that by these aliens taking control of our data, which is basically a allegory to government oversight. That's truly what it was, an allegory to that. Eating our data, all of a sudden things don't work anymore. Like there are planes falling out of the sky because they
Oh
hate their data.
man,
I'm like, what kind of pilot doesn't pilot anymore because the data got it didn't make sense, Ben.
and all the boats get the ships all go ashore and like they're all tipped over on. They run aground and everything just everything falls apart. Like I maybe I'm wrong, but a 747, I feel like they would actually have some sort of, you know, just manual way to fly. Like that's what you teach the pilots to do, right? Like, but the plane just flips over and just like, oh, data's gone. Now it's sideways. They're gonna
Yes.
and nothing works. But we're gonna go ahead and get a bomber, and it's gonna fly, and it's gonna drop a nuclear warhead on. How does I thought nothing worked because the data's all been eaten. It's no, no, it's fine. Just yeah, pay no attention to the man
don't
behind the curtain kind of
don't think
thing.
about it. Just consume product.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of consuming product, though, I think that is why it still got released. Like they waited this long, but I feel like they had to do this as a an obligation to their advertisers because you had Amazon, man, front and center with those drones and their drone delivery system, and
Yes.
the day was saved by the drone
Amazon
delivery.
saves the day. Amazon saves the day. That's what they wanted us all to know. And I'm sitting here thinking Amazon is the OPEC of data right behind China. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Of course, if you're going to take that cartoon logic, which hey, I would accept that for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends on Saturday morning in 1981. I'd accept it. That would have been fine. You accept that, and then how are they going to defeat it? Well, with a computer virus, right? I mean, that's. I feel like they're like layering and trying to hey, a little bit of a play on words here. The other versions, the real ones, it's a virus that takes down the aliens. And so in this one, we're going to steal from Independence Day and we're going to have a virus that we can feed to them that's going to so bad. So bad. And then last warning for spoilers. We're watching and you've got the one hacker guy on the screen. And at one point, my son looks over at me and says, wouldn't it be so dumb if it turned out the big twist was the hacker guy is actually his son? And I was like, yeah, that would be really stupid. And then I'm like, wait a minute. No, this is fitting. Uh-oh. it's it's his teenage son. Yeah. So he's a part of the Department of Homeland Security or whatever. And so he's the guy who can watch everyone. And he's using his powers to watch everyone and protect the country. He's using his powers to delete his son's game saves, spy on his daughter and see what she's eating because she's pregnant, and and listen in on and talk to his son-in-law. It's just like, or not son-in-law, but his daughter's boyfriend, and it's just complete overreach of power and extremely inappropriate. And he shouldn't have a job right now. Has he been doing this for? If this is just the first day of him doing that, okay. If he's never done it before, they haven't caught him yet. But how long has he been doing this? Because they're acting like it hasn't been like this isn't the first time. Ugh. And then it turns out his archenemy, his Lex Luthor, so to speak, is his own son.
I'm, I'm with what your son said. That would be stupid, you know, like that would totally be stupid. And you like, and you're sitting there going, if he's with the Department of Homeland Security, he should probably be focused on his job, right? And now, mind you, there is a story to a father being so obsessed with protecting his kids that he spies on them. A father that is grieving the loss of his wife, and the only sound that he has of her voice is what's locked on the computer. There is a story there. It was wrapped up in the wrong story, which is War of the Worlds. Okay, I felt like if they had taken that story out and put it elsewhere, took away the Department of Homeland Security and just made him a computer tech person that works for a secret government agency that spies on people. That's the story I wanted to see.
I've seen some headlines come up where you're like, um, the phone company deleted their files or something like that, and that was like there was a voicemail that was the last remnant of a lost spouse or a mother's voice, and how it's heartbreaking. Like, and it's legit. It's happened. They definitely found what could have been a very human piece in the midst of what was going on, but then they put it like you said. They did two things wrong. One is they put it in a story where it's Ice Cube who has to play the grieving father, and they put it in a story where aliens are going to eat your data, and that's the danger here. Like he's going to lose his wife's voice because aliens are eating the data, and he's watching his photos disappear. it's it's like how does doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Shame on you guys. Shame on you. You changed too much for the sake of change.
There's a reason why people have ragged on this movie. People are saying, "Oh, you're just getting on the bandwagon," and it's not. The other thing that people were upset about was the Amazon place, product placement the entire movie. And if they were doing this movie as parody, I would have been totally on board, would have been completely fine with that. But we were supposed to take this seriously, right? And then, like, even the threat of the aliens, they're not that much of a threat if they're coming after your data. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what are they, they're not killing anyone. They're just going for the data servers. And so you're sitting there going, so, I mean, should I spoil the end, Ben? Should I spoil the end?
Yeah, I mean, we've already said somewhat, but I mean, here's the how it should have ended. Shut down the servers. You've got backup drives. And if there's no power in the drive, they can't get the data. The other thing is,
You got to be a
this is a
government agent to do that.
this is a completely renewable source. This is the kind of thing where you say, "Hey, aliens, come over here. We're going to set up a great big giant data processing thing, and we're just going to copy our data and just keep pushing it out to you right there." And it's alien McDonald's. Here's your McData, and you can just go ahead and eat it anytime you want. Come and join us. We will gladly feed you because it costs us so little to do this. And what we can gain in a positive relationship with an alien evolved AI or whatever, what we can gain from this is just so much. And they're that's how you stop them. You stop them by shutting down what you've got, setting up something over here, and just feeding it data that you don't mind losing because it's copied from all these other servers. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the end, Parker. Go ahead. And, uh,
Okay, so at the end, Ice Cube saves the world by putting in a USB, and that's how he saves the world. There is such an anticlimactic moment because when you save the world, something is sacrificed, right? You have some kind of heroic deed, something is sacrificed. Let's look at Armageddon back in the 90s. Armageddon. At the end, Bruce Willis sacrifices his life to save the world. Okay, look at I don't know, some other disaster movie. There's a human sacrifice because the person is willing to die to save mankind. Ice Cube puts in a USB.
he had to run past a tentacle to do it.
Okay, well, he didn't really sacrifice anything. And he wrote this long letter, and earlier in the movie, he wrote this long letter saying that he might not survive this. And even when he's in the massive server room, you see the alien tentacles there, and you're like, well, they're not going to eat him because he's not data. He's human flesh and bone. They're not going to do anything with him. So they're not really a threat. So why is he acting as if they're a threat when they're not a threat? They're not going to eat him because he's not data. And so they show him, foaming at the mouth and hurrying to put the USB into the server. And there you go. Save the world with an Amazon drone and USB, charger. And you're sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. This can't be it. And then you realize that they're not kidding you.
No, they're not kidding. And it's a computer virus mixed in with a DNA virus thing that just none of it makes any sense. It just ugh, it was hurting. It's going back to Mystery Science Theater, the whole deep hurting. I don't know if you remember that, but that's how I was feeling. And Mystery Science Theater would not save this movie. Um, man, yeah. So the whole thing, you have two missed opportunities for a real emotional moment, and one was he wrote this letter to them. It's an email. It's data. It's going to get lost. And then they start reading it, and it's like, oh, he did die. He did die. Because this is really affecting, like it's supposed to be anyway. And then, nope, they got the letter where he's saying goodbye. but he's still with them. And so now they have a better relationship, I guess, because they finally got that message from him. But it feels like a test audience thing, where they change the ending because the test audience is like, I didn't like that he died. There was no test audience for this movie, though. There's no way.
There's no sacrifice that he really makes. And I know, like, you put the constraints of COVID with the movie, and I understand that. But because he doesn't make a sacrifice, because he doesn't have to give up something, if anything, he tells the government, well, I'm going to be watching you now instead of watching people. And you're sitting there going, so you're still collecting data, right? So we're going to have this awful cycle again because from the ashes of the tripods will rise again and they'll come back to Earth to get more data, and you're sitting there going, you got to be kidding me.
The sacrifice was he twisted his ankle a little bit when he tripped over the tentacle. That was the sacrifice. If that's not enough for you, I don't know what to say, Parker. I just don't know. Because this really was, I mean, they got to the end, they hit the reset button, everything's fine, everything's dandy.
Are you serious?
And now I'm watching you. That's the and it should have been a great moment. It should have been like you know, I'm not with you anymore. I'm watching you. Cue the music. And yeah, it just okay. So we've dogpiled on the movie. We've joined the bandwagon. And, but what are your final words, Parker, about War of the Worlds 2025?
Well, I don't think we joined the bandwagon in that we were alone. You have to remember when I actually tried to watch this movie twice. And the first time I watched it, I lasted 7 minutes, okay, before I started considering life choices. But then I thought it would get better. So I went ahead and watched the whole movie. And I kept thinking to myself, I can't believe I watched the whole movie. So it's not that we joined the bandwagon. I think this movie did something that a lot of people couldn't do. It united the world. It united the world and brought peace for a little bit, because everyone agreed it was really a bad movie.
And I truly thought I'd be an outlier. I thought I was going to like it. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Parker. Um, the last question I have for you is just where can people find you online? Because you do podcasting, you also do a lot of writing. And I don't know what's your next book that you've got coming up that you'd like to let people know about, or your most recent book that you'd like people to know about. But where can people find you, and what can they find you doing online?
Oh, well, I am working on actually several projects. One of them is with you. I'm working on that one. Uh, that one actually, Ben, I have to tell you about that particular project. I tried to go a non romantic story, and I just couldn't get it. Then I figured out a way to add romance into it, and it just started to flow. So prepare yourself. There's going to be a romantic element in that
All
story.
right.
So I'm working on your story for the anthology.
That's
And
fair.
then I'm working on two projects, one for my publisher and an indie publisher and an indie project. So yeah, I'm keeping pretty busy. And by the time this comes out, I'll be finishing one project. It's called Elijah's Promise, and it's a mountain man story, historical. My heroine is not likable, and I did that on purpose. So it'll be interesting to see how people respond. So that's what I'm working on right now. If you want to know more about me, go to parkerjcole.com.
Well, thank you, Parker. Appreciate you always. And yeah, so everyone, if you made it this far, then yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts about the movie have been. Definitely leave a comment below, whether it's on our webpage or on our YouTube page. But definitely let us know what you thought about War of the Worlds. Are we not being fair? I think we are being more than fair. I definitely feel like I was more than fair coming into it. But um, your mileage may vary. And so I'm curious what other people thought about War of the Worlds 2025. So let us know. Let us know. But I knew. I mean, we, there's some thematic things going on. Man, this is bad. This is bad. Uh, that's it. That's it. So until next time, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spending time with us. Check out Parker's website, and Godspeed.
It really is the type of movie where you're either going to hate it or hate it more.